So I wasn't actually planning to do a video this week, but then this thing arrived and, well, I've got to show it to you. Hi and welcome back to the shed. I'm JOEBLEEPS and this is the Miyoo Mini Plus. Now I've got to be honest, we are in the middle of a heat wave in the UK at the moment. The weather has been very hot. And obviously I do all of my recording in a shed, which has kind of turned itself into a sauna in the past week, and everyone is out. So there's noise from different gardens and there's music and there's been dogs barking. And I've just felt like I don't think I'm going to get a chance to make a video. But while I was putting together last week's video, this thing arrived in the post. I'd had it on pre-order for a little while. It's a little mini Game Boy emulator type machine. You've probably heard of the Miyoo Mini before. This is a slightly bigger version. It reminds me very much of the Boy, which is one of these sorts of things from a long time ago. And of course, in turn, it's very much mimicking the original Game Boy. Now, there are loads of these little emulator boxes on the market. Is this one worth your time? Let's take a look. So one of the earliest little handheld emulation devices I got my hands on was the Boy a number of years ago now, and it sort of aped the original Game Boy in terms of its stylings, but was much smaller, much thinner, much more portable, and it played a whole load of games. So it was a fun little piece of kit. It did always feel a little bit cheapy, but it was quite nice to play on. It had a whole load of games built into it, but I've got to be honest, I spent more time setting it up, organising the files and everything else than I ever did actually playing on it. So is that going to happen again, and is history going to repeat itself when I'm playing on this thing, which is the Miyoo Mini Plus? Now, the first thing I want to say is, although it reminded me of the Boy at first, you can just feel a difference in quality. This does feel like a really nice premium product. Everything about it I really like. In terms of the quality of the buttons, you know, look at what we've got on here. Look at that D-pad. And look at this one, it's like they're worlds apart. I'm just going to pop this to one side now. So this is the Miyoo Mini Plus. Now, I'd fancied getting the Miyoo Mini for a long while. It's one that, you know, lots and lots of these handhelds come along. You see a new one coming out every week, and it's one of those things that puts me off, because as soon as you buy one, there's a new one that comes out that's better. But the Miyoo Mini is definitely one that had tempted me. I tried to get hold of one. In fact, I'd ordered one at one point, and then the order got cancelled because they weren't in stock. So when they announced the larger version, it seemed like a no-brainer to me to get one on pre-order. I had to wait a little bit longer to get this Game Boy style one. You can also get them like in a clear black or a clear purple or a white with the Famicom colour buttons. They all looked awesome. It's one of those where you always kind of feel like you've picked the wrong one because you see a picture of the purple one afterwards and think, oh, that'd be great. But I had to go with the original Game Boy styling, and I'm really happy with it. It's got really nice face buttons. Unlike the Boy, it's actually got the A and B in the right place, which is much better. And you've got a little home button in the middle, select and start. On the bottom you've got a headphone jack, you've got an SD card slot. It does actually come with a 64 gig card preloaded with a whole load of games, so you can actually play it stock, and it charges via USB-C. On top there is a power button and 3 little LEDs. On this side there's the volume dial, and on the back you've got some shoulder buttons. The R2 and L2 are slightly more pronounced, so in terms of your controls you can feel them without looking at them, which is great. Now, if you've seen pictures or videos of this before, you'll notice that I've got this running OnionOS, which is like a custom firmware. It's actually not built into the machine itself. The firmware is just built into the card, and if you load up the machine without the card in, it'll load up the stock OS. Now, to be honest, the stock software is actually pretty good, and it comes with a whole load of games. I mean, sometimes the list of software in there is like just random, and you'll get some names and then some with numbers and so on. What I love with these things is, as well as playing on them, I'll be honest, it's spending all my time tinkering about with them, trying to get packs of games together, looking for different firmwares, choosing themes, all that stuff I really enjoy doing, and that's what I've spent a lot of the last week doing. So now on here, when I go to say games, I've got it set up with all of my favourite systems on there. So I've got arcade, I've got Atari 2600, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, NES, Mega Drive, Game Gear, Game Boy Color. I've PlayStation on there. I've got loads of PlayStation. This thing runs PlayStation games like you wouldn't believe. Super Nintendo, Sega CD, TurboGrafx, Neo Geo. It's got a whole load of stuff and a carefully curated lists of games in there as well. Now, one of the cool things about this is, although you can launch, say if I go into Game Boy there and choose a game, oh, I got the new McDonald's game, the Grimace's birthday one. It's actually pretty good. So say if we scroll through and we try and find a game, so we'll go down and you can scroll like this and it just goes like a game at a time, or you can use the L2 and R2 and it skips like a whole screen at a time. I'll go down and load up Tetris on there just so we can get that boot screen. So it loads up and brings down the Nintendo logo with this version. And you can change all sorts of different palettes on here by changing with your shoulder buttons as well. So you got like the Game Boy Pocket style, the original Game Boy, and then there's like a whole load of other different colour schemes. A bit like having your, like your funny playing screens and things in the Game Boy. And then when you play the games, it's just really, I mean, the size of the screen on it, when you compare it to the size of the Game Boy screen and relative to the machine, it's huge and it looks awesome. While I'm talking, I'm just going to turn the volume down a bit there. Now, one of my favourite things about this, especially with the OnionOS, is the game switcher. So although we've got all those systems, what I find is I'm often at a loss for what games to play, and I'll scroll through all sorts of different menus trying to choose. But if you've played a few, it keeps a record of the ones you've played. You press the home button and you can scroll through your more recent games on this game switcher. So I've got that Tetris there, got Hellfire on the Mega Drive, it's got some awesome music on there, so we could just load that one up and then just carry on playing where I was up to last time. I've really not had it glitchy on any of the different emulators so far. Maybe I've just been lucky, or maybe it does just run everything so well. I mean, obviously not absolutely everything. We've not got the analog sticks on this, so certain things, like obviously it wouldn't be any good with things like Nintendo 64 or Dreamcast. But PlayStation, particularly the PlayStation games that are good for, so we'll go there, particularly PlayStation games that are good for the D-pad. Okay, I have been playing loads of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. So we'll load that up and just have a little go on Streets of San Francisco. I always forget you've got to swap to like the PlayStation layout, so this becomes your confirm button once you're in with the X button. But we'll just have a little bit of a skate around and you can see just how smoothly this runs. It's just awesome. Ooh, I've missed the name to that. But I have been playing this so much. It's so good. What else have we got in here? I don't want this to be a huge long video, and my camera is overheating because, as I said, it's super hot in here. So I've got Hellfire on the Mega Drive there, got Excitebike NES, playing, oh, the Neo Geo plays so well. So let's load up Blazing Star on there. So as I say, the camera is getting hot, so I might not even get that much footage out of this here, but let's just get some credits in there and get started. What else have we got? One of my Super Nintendo favourites is on here as well. And the best thing is, like, if you get interrupted with your gameplay, or you arrive at your bus stop, or you get parcel delivered to the door, you can just pause and switch off and go into a different game or anything like that, and you can just come back and pick up exactly where you left off. Now if we just come out of there, simply press B to exit. I just want to have a look at a couple of other things to show you. As I say, you can scroll through your different games. You can put little like preview thumbnails for you to go in there, and you get the total freedom. You put the SD card into your computer and you can do all sorts of cataloguing and organising of your games collections and ROMs and artwork and all of that sort of stuff. So if we come out of the games themselves, we go into like apps, and you can do all sorts of different things, tracking your play activity, tweaks and so on. But there's also themes, so as well as the background that you've seen there, there's loads of different ones that you can choose from in there. So just load up the previews. This is the one that we're on at the moment, which is just this, what's called Silky. You can install more of these themes as well, so this is just like the ones that came with the package that I got. I quite like that one with the Super Nintendo style. There's the System 9, there's the Tech Dweeb and so on. And there's just lots and lots of different themes. Quite a nice Pac-Man one. Let's go with the Game Boy style one, the Onion Boy HD. So you go like that and you just A to install, it'll install it. And then you've got the same sort of menu system, but just a totally different look to everything. And also sound effects as well. Listen to that when we're moving around, which sounds awesome. One could possibly get a little annoying later. But yeah, so it wasn't going to be a huge in-depth video. As I say, I wasn't going to do a video at all, but it's a cool new piece of kit, and time will tell if I end up keeping playing on it or it gathers dust. But really it feels quite different. There's a little bit of weight to it, there's a bit of heft to it. It's got a decent battery, the battery lasts a long time, the screen is huge and beautiful. It's actually comfortable to hold for long periods of time of playing, and the quality feels excellent. The killer thing in this though is the D-pad. It's a really, really good responsive D-pad, not too clicky, not too mushy, it's just right. It's really, really good. So of all the things that usually put me off with these things, of like, you know, they don't run certain games particularly well, or your screen held at certain angles isn't very good, or the buttons aren't very comfortable. The only downside I would say is that the speaker is very tiny and a little bit tinny, but we've got a headphone jack, so you can plug your headphones in and it sounds great through those. So, you know, that's like my one negative about it really. When it's got the OnionOS installed, you can just tap on there and it'll go into sleep mode. Also, if you put it down and forget about it, which is what I did when I first got it on the stock OS, the battery wore down completely. With OnionOS, it does shut itself down after a certain period of not playing, and then you can just load it back up and you're back in again and you can carry on playing. So it's a really great little portable solution. I have spent a lot of time before buying it and when I first got it watching loads and loads of really good videos about this in terms of setting them up, in terms of installing the custom firmware. I'm not going to go through all that today. I just wanted to show you my new toy. What I will do though is I'll link some of the guides I found particularly useful in the description. So if you want some actual useful content instead of just me waffling on all excited about my new toy, you can go and watch that. If you're interested in this kind of thing, this is the box that it comes in. It's quite a nice simple box with a sort of slide out drawer in a quite a nice sort of Famicom colour scheme. It comes with some very basic instructions. It comes with the SD card in there, which I've got in currently plugged in here. A very cheap generic 64 gig card and a very cheap card reader, but it just about does the job. There's also a glass screen cover with it that I've not put on there yet because I quite like the sleek look of the screen. It's slightly rounded over on the edges, which looks quite good, and it comes with a USB-C little cable as well. So it's got everything you need in the package, and it, as I say, it's quite a nice, relatively unobtrusive box. So if you get excited about boxes, there we go. So boot up time, it's relatively quick. You just have to wait for the boot logo to come up and then it will cut to your games. Okay, so we're on there now. Loading up. I'm going to go back to my other theme. Yeah, go back to that one. Now, although I have installed OnionOS and I have set up with my own sort of setup of games and libraries and all that sort of thing, one thing that I have copied across from the original card that came with it is this random thing here called Shoot. Now, this is like a custom build of MAME purely for scrolling shoot 'em up games, which is a genre I am terrible at, but I absolutely love. and I've not really seen much mention of it on a few of the videos that I've watched, but it's really smart. What it allows you to do, let's just load it up here, is there's a whole load of these different vertical scrolling shooter games, but it's configured so that when you load it, the games load up. And at first I was like, oh, hang on a minute, this is a little bit dodgy because it's sideways on like this, okay? But what it does is it completely reconfigures the controls, so the D-pad actually works in this orientation. Now, as you can see, we've got the button there and we've got buttons here. That would make for a bit of an awkward play, even holding these buttons or those at the back and constantly hammering away at those for your fire button would be a little awkward. However, the way it's set up is it uses the face buttons and the shoulder buttons in quite an interesting way. Let me just show you. So select will put a coin in the arcade game, and start will launch the game. Now for the fire button, it's L2, but it's automatically set to auto fire. So if you want to just make a press, like if you're choosing your character, you just press it twice and then it turns auto fire on or off, because obviously you're supposed to hammer your button to do it. So I mean, it's not perfect, but it's just, I think it's really cleverly done. So when I'm playing the game here, what I can do is I can move around and I just press the auto fire button on the back, and now I can just play to my heart's content. I can't really use all the features of a game, but it's certainly enough, particularly for just a quick bit of portable play. It's great, it's good fun. And the other trigger button will launch bombs, if you've got any bombs. And I've just died because I'm trying to talk and play and figure out which buttons to use at the same time. And then also what you've got, I just died there, the B button is set to like a rewind. So you can scroll back, so if you've made any mistakes, you can scroll all the way back to the point before you died, and then you can respawn and continue playing. Also, one of the shoulder buttons, this one here, will make it into like a slow motion play. So if you're struggling with a particular bit, it'll slow it down. If you want to exit back to the menu, now that's quite good because there's loads and loads of different games on there. You just press the button there just next to the screen and it'll go back to your list. Obviously you have to turn this way to choose from your list, but there's a whole load of different ones. We'll just load up Fire Shark there, loads up your game, and then you're back to your vertical orientation again. You've got your auto fire and the D-pad works fine. And in terms of ergonomics, I thought it'd be pretty horrible, but it's actually quite comfortable to hold. The only downside is that when you're holding it like this, your hand does cover up the speaker a bit, and if you had your headphones plugged in here, it'd make it a little uncomfortable. But just, I don't know, in terms of a little extra and a different way of playing, I think it's a really, really cool feature, and it's one that I'd not seen much mention of. And certainly when I set up the OnionOS, I very much missed it. So I went back to the original SD card and copied those things across. I've still got it on slow motion mode here, I think. I don't know. That's on slow-mo. That's on the faster speed there. So as I say, it's on autopilot. You can press your other trigger button to drop your bombs. And it's definitely immensely playable, and there's so many games to choose from. You can just keep dipping in and out. One thing about the shoot games is it doesn't play very well with the game switcher on OnionOS, but provided you just bear that in mind, it's not the end of the world. It is definitely a cool little feature, and it's something I hadn't seen mentioned that much on other videos. So yeah, you might want to check it out. If you're a fan of scrolling shooters, that is definitely a feature that might interest you. So I thought I'd mention it on here too.
And that's it. Like I say, I didn't want to do an in-depth video. It's not a tutorial. Now, as I've said before, I'm aiming to make one video every week at the moment, and I do feel a little bit conscious in terms of potential burnout, because I am spending a lot of my time recently putting together these videos, planning them, filming them, editing them, and it's taking up a lot of my time, and I'm conscious I don't want to burn out, and I want to keep making content that I'm genuinely wanting to make and I'm enjoying making. So something a little bit quick this week, just showing you something I'm having a bit of fun with, and hopefully it gave you a little bit of an insight. And if you've been on the fence about buying one, maybe this has helped you make up your mind. Let me know
in the comments. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like. And if you want to see more like this, subscribe, sign up for notifications. All that stuff is always appreciated. As ever, if you want to support the channel a bit more, I've got affiliate links for the awesome ZedLabz website where you can buy all of your modding gear. Use the code JOEBLEEPS to get some money off there as well. Or you can have a look at my Amazon storefront where I've put together a whole selection of products that is the kind of thing I tend to spend all of my money on. And that's it for now. If there's more you want to watch of me, there's some videos popping up here. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.